Welcome to the Go Pitch Win podcast, the show where entrepreneurs pitch their best business ideas to our industry leaders. Each week, one will move forward towards the grand prize, $10,000. One winner. So get ready. And now, here's your host, Greg Mercer.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Go Pitch Win. This week I am joined by guest judge Nick Loper. Nick helps people earn money outside of their day job. He's an author, online entrepreneur, and host of what was nominated the best business podcast, The Side Hustle Show. It features new part-time business ideas each week. And as chief side hustler at sidehustlenation.com, he loves deconstructing the tactics and strategies behind building extra income streams. Nick, how are you doing today?
Doing excellent, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me as being a guest judge on this week. And this week, Nick and myself, we'll be judging Nate Littlewood's business, Urban Leaf. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to hear a little bit more about Urban Leaf. With that being said, go ahead and take the stage, Nate, and tell us all about it.
It's time for today's business idea.
Okay, so Urban Leaf is a business about plants. It turns out that there's been a 63% increase in millennial participation in growing plants and gardening over just the last 5 years. So people are really getting into plants and growing their own plants at home at the moment. There's a couple of big reasons for this. Number one, they turn out to be a very high quality source of fresh, healthy, and chemical-free food. Second reason is that just the process of living with plants and having them in your house can actually make you a much happier and healthier human being. In one particular study, experts actually found that patients who had plants in their hospital rooms actually left hospital sooner. They got better quicker just by having a plant around them while they were healing. The not so good news is that plants don't always like people, particularly in urban environments. We run into issues with the lack of time, space, and knowledge. A lot of us just don't really know how to look after plants and keep them alive. That's why we have invented our first product, which is called the world's smallest garden. For the benefits of people who might not have the video at the moment, it's a little insert about 5 inches long that comes with a special substrate or smart soil in it. What you do is you take a bottle, fill the bottle with water, you insert this thing, and then you basically put some seeds in and you can grow a garden. After a month or two, you'll have something that looks a bit like this. Hopefully you can see the samples I'm holding up on the screen here. Before I get into the product, I did want to take just a step back and kind of tell you a little bit about the company, the mission, and what we're really all about here. While everyone's getting excited at the moment about things like electric cars and solar panels, I actually believe that a fork is the most powerful tool that any of us have to reduce our environmental footprint. Not that I'm pushing or promoting veganism here, but again, just as an example, it takes about 18 times as much land to support a meat eater's diet compared to a vegan's diet. So just by some small and subtle changes in thinking about how and what we eat, we can have far more impact than any of us would ever be able to do by buying a Tesla or covering our entire roof with solar panels. Now, it's not just sort of the environmental impact that's at stake here. There's also some really serious health consequences as well. Between the 1960s and today, the amount of their disposable income that Americans spend on food has gone down from about 25% to less than 10% right now. And that means that we spend less of our income on food than at any point in history. Not only that, we also spend less of our money on food than any other economy in the world. And before we go thinking that's a good thing, notice that we're also spending more on healthcare than any other economy in the world. So we aren't really saving money by spending less on food. We're just giving it to the doctor instead of the guy at the grocery store or the farmer. Not only that, here in the US, we're spending twice what any other developed country does on healthcare, yet we're failing to actually keep ourselves healthier. Like, compared to other developed countries, Americans have 4 or 5 years shorter life expectancy. Like, there's something really, really wrong with this picture. And here at Urban Leaf, we believe that a big part of what's going on here is our relationship with food. And the fact that we've had this great big corporate industrialized food system come up and, position itself between us and really the origins of our food. And so at the core of what we're trying to do here at Urban Leaf is really to help facilitate a relationship that brings people closer to their food, because we believe that by doing that, we can motivate, encourage, and inspire people to make not only healthier, but also more environmentally sustainable food choices. So, the space that we're in is kind of the, at-home grow kit, consumer hydroponics area. And, we're by no means the first people into this space, but really what sets us apart from the competition is the unique combination of affordability, and that also means accessibility. We're at a $20-something price point for our 3-pack kit. As well as the ease of use, and I've shown here on this chart in front of you the maintenance required. So the beautiful thing about this product is you can fill it up with water and it basically then becomes a full-time babysitter for your plant. It will look after watering and feeding that plant for up to a month at a time, which means you have plenty of time to get busy with work, go on vacation, do whatever you do and basically live your life, and you can still enjoy that plant-based experience and growing your own food at home. We have a partnership with a group called Teens for Food Justice, which is a non-profit that provides urban farming education for food insecure kids. The contribution that we made last year, which was our first year of operation, helped them produce about 3,500 pounds of fresh, healthy food at their indoor farm at a school. We also have another non-profit partner called Mid-Hudson Works. They do most of our assembly and fulfillment. They're an amazing organization. They provide employment opportunities for folks with disabilities who might otherwise find it hard to find work. And finally, the product is entirely made in the United States. Most of it's actually done in New York State, including the plastic injection molding. As far as the product roadmap goes, we're currently at about stage 1.5 of a 5-stage execution plan here. So we started off essentially as a single product company. We're selling exclusively online at the moment. We started on Kickstarter. We have a few other outlets. We're on Amazon, of course. Right now, we're in the process of releasing some new kits with different themes. So some of the new products or SKUs that we'll be releasing will be like a cocktail kit, a cooking kit, an herbal tea kit, and an edible flower kit. Beyond that, we're looking to introduce some ancillary products, which is things like LED grow lights, racks and stands. We've got some new hardware ideas that we would eventually like to introduce. And the long-term game plan here is actually to develop a marketplace for the small, currently small and niche, but very, very rapidly growing urban agriculture and urban farming space. So that's what we're up to. What we would use the $10,000 for, if we are so fortunate to win it, is basically it's going to allow us to find more consumers and change the lives of more people. Right now, as I said, we only have really one kit with a somewhat eclectic group of plants in there. But by introducing these new themes like the cocktail kit, the herbal tea kit, etc., it's going to mean that we can appeal to a much wider audience than what we do today. Part of that involves a move into brick and mortar retail. We've got some packaging and redesign work that kind of needs to happen with that. We've also got some point of sale displays that we need and shippers. We need to invest in some inventory, and there's a few other bits and pieces that we need to do to the contents of the package as well. So I might stop there, guys, and see if you had any questions.
All right, so real quick, so I can better understand the product, do you include the seeds when you ship these units, or you can put whatever seeds you want inside these?
Correct. So what you get in the kit is, first of all, 3 of these gardens. So you can have 3 separate plants growing. For each of those 3 gardens, you get 3 different seed varieties. At the moment, we sell it with a purple basil, a sweet basil, and a lemon balm, which is amazing for teas and a substitute for lemon rind. You get some germination stickers, which go on the top and really just are there to help the seeds sprout. You get some stickers for labeling the bottles as well, and of course, an instruction booklet, which is everything you need to know to kind of get up and running.
Okay, cool. And then they work with any type of bottle, wine bottles?
Wine bottles are ideal. The main criteria that you want to have is about 750 mils, which is exactly what this is, obviously. You also want to have a fairly dark color. Brown is ideal. The reason for that is that it provides a filter for certain frequencies of light, and it basically helps create a natural filter against algae growing in the bottle, which would be a problem if you used a clear glass bottle. So try to use something dark.
Okay, and then over time, the roots go through that little media you have there into the water, or it's just through evaporation, or?
What happens as the plant matures is that the roots kind of dangle down into the water. So effectively what you're doing here is kind of setting up a mechanism for the plant to water itself. Which is why it can be sort of self-sustaining and, as I said, like look after itself for up to a month at a time. Because we've set up this way for the plant to water itself so that you the user don't have to.
How many have you sold so far?
So we sell them for a bit over $20 a kit for a 3-pack. We've currently done just over $80,000 in revenue. That's since we started shipping towards the end of September last year.
Cool. And what have been the best channels for you so far?
Well, Amazon's been great. We are still very new to it, but learning a lot about pay-per-click optimization and SEO at the moment. I mean, the great thing about Amazon, as you know, is you get so much data from there. So we're getting, quite involved in that. Even on like the automatic settings, before we get into like the manual tinkering with keywords and stuff, Amazon for us is basically a machine so far that we can invest about $5 worth of paid advertising and get back about 15 in margin. So, pretty good economics off the bat, and I'm confident that we can improve them quite a bit as we get smarter on the PPC stuff. The other channels that have been really good have been some of the online gift stores. So we started with an online gift store called Uncommon Goods in October last year with a trial order of 50 units. 2 weeks later, they came back with a PO for 100. A week later, they gave us a PO for about another 250. And literally the day after we'd sent that 250 order, they gave us another PO for another 250, and it just took off into the end of the year. I mean, it's a very giftable product at the mid-20 sort of price point. It's kind of a bit of a no-brainer as a Christmas gift. So we had a pretty good December.
Do you see it primarily as a gift product, or you spend a lot of time on kind of like the macro environmental stuff where it's like, I'm curious, okay, well, how much impact, like how many acres of farmland are you really going to replace, with kind of this little niche gift product?
That's a really good question. And I should be clear here that the goal of this product is not about an all-encompassing solution to the food system. The goal here is not about providing someone self-sufficiency. You're not going to grow enough food here to, make an entire meal, or, you're still going to have to go to the grocery store, even if you're growing one of these things. Really, the impact that we have is through facilitating this relationship that brings people closer to their food. There's a ton of research that shows that just the process of interacting, engaging with your food, whether it's in the form of gardening or cooking, can have a very, very profound impact on the type of food choices that you make. So there was one study where they got a bunch of kids to actually grow salad greens at school. And they found that these kids who'd been growing salad greens were as much as 400% more likely to want to eat salad greens if they had grown them themselves. So like, I don't need to be, at least I don't think I need to be, offering self-sufficiency when it comes to food production in order to kind of change the way that a consumer thinks about food and give them an experience that hopefully encourages them to think a little bit more deeply and thoughtfully about the type of food choices that they make.
All right, well, we're going to try it because my 2-year-old won't touch salad. So maybe we get him to plant it a little bit.
Is this a product that could grow, maybe not like tomato plants, but like pretty legitimate vegetable plants? Or do you see it mostly for herbs and kind of more like decorative type plants?
Yeah, so in its current form, it's definitely better for smaller, like leafy greens, herbs, sort of thing. We have grown some cherry tomatoes with it before, and we're actually experimenting with some peppers at the moment. But the truth is, our limitation is that we've got a pretty, finite amount of water and nutrients that we can fit into this bottle. And some of those bigger flowering plants, they need a lot in terms of water and nutrients, which is difficult to provide with this setup. But some of the hardware products that we're going to be releasing in the future, once we've gotten people kind of interested in the whole concept with this product, will be much better for growing, larger fruiting plants like you mentioned, and producing more meaningful quantities of food. So that's definitely like where we're heading. This, I guess, we think of more as kind of a gateway garden. It's, accessible price point, low barrier to entry, easy to use, very affordable. And so it's a great way to get a very large number of people taking a first step in the right direction. That's the goal of the product.
Okay, and so the Kickstarter video said, "Hey, we're 3D printing those," which I thought was awesome. Today, you said they're injection plastic produced.
Yeah, we did our beta test using 3D printing just because there's zero setup costs. The unit cost on getting something like this done with 3D printing, I think we were paying like $2.50 or $3 a unit. Now we get them done with injection molding, as you said. Obviously, we had a fair bit of cost involved to get that mold made. I think it was about $15,000. So a big part of our Kickstarter proceeds went towards paying for that mold. But it means that now we can produce these things, instead of $3, we can produce them for about 20 cents. So it means, yeah, the unit cost has come way down. Our all-in cost for a kit at the moment is a little over $3 for everything in. And that's entirely US sourced and mostly made in New York State. There's definitely some volume opportunities that we can take advantage of as we ramp up. But between $3 and the 20-something that we're selling it for on Amazon at the moment, there's a decent amount of margin to play with.
Okay, so Amazon is driving sales, and Uncommon Goods is driving a ton of sales. Of the 80 grand, what percentage is Amazon?
So Amazon's a pretty new phenomenon for us. Like as of now, it is our biggest sort of direct-ish to consumer channel. We're doing probably 75–80% of our volumes through Amazon as of right now. Over the history of the company, we haven't done more than, it'd be less than 5 grand to date on Amazon. So we're still, very young. Like I said, we're still, learning the whole pay-per-click thing, figuring out how to optimize that. And once we have done a little bit more tweaking to that recipe, then, we'll pour some fuel on that advertising fire and hopefully continue to grow volumes.
One of the slides had patent pending for just some IP protection.
Yes, so we have a couple of patents on the product. We filed the full patent earlier this year. That process will take years and years to kind of play out. I think it can take like 3 to 5 years or something, so I'm not holding my breath. But yes, we do have some patent protection on it. One of you had asked a moment ago who I'm working on this with as well. My co-founder, and there is only 2 of us at the moment, my co-founder is actually a PhD plant scientist. Who I met a couple of years ago at Columbia, where we were both studying at the time. So yeah, we teamed up, both care a lot about sustainability. He thought that he was going to go down the route of becoming a professor, something in the plant space, but I managed to convince him that joining this crazy startup idea with me would be more fun, and so he did, and here we are.
How much money have you invested into this business so far?
So we've put in about 40 grand so far in founders' capital. We did about 40, 45 with the Kickstarter as well.
And are you profitable to date? Patents and everything included?
So on like a unit economic basis, like absolutely. We're not quite selling enough volume to cover our overheads right now. We're a few months off getting there. But if Amazon kind of keeps going in the direction it is, and we land a few of these sort of retail business and wholesale relationships that we're working on, I think, the break-even point is definitely within reach. So we're rapidly approaching.
Are you working on this full time?
Yes, I am. Yep. So I left a corporate job in finance a couple of years ago, went back to school, did my MBA, and yeah, have been working on this ever since.
What happens when the water in the bottle runs out? You just lift the plant up and refill it, or is it like now you got to get a new kit?
Yes. So after a month or so, the plant will have used most, if not all, of the water in the bottle. As you said, you just like pull out the insert. Yeah. The way you do it is you sort of pull out the insert, leave the roots dangling in, and you put it under a tap, fill it up with more water, and put it back in, and off you go.
I was trying to find like a subscription opportunity for you there, but it's like it's more sustainable to do it that way.
Yeah, there's definitely some subscription opportunities for this business. And in fact, one of the things that we'll be exploring after we have released these new kits, I mentioned 4 to you already, but there's at least a couple of more that we're working on as well. We should have enough volume and enough variety there to actually set this up as a subscription type business. So, every couple of months people would get a new themed kit. It might be, appropriate for the time of year and the other sorts of things that they're doing or eating or drinking at that time of year. And we can provide them a supply of fresh herbs to go with whatever else they're doing. I think that is very achievable later this year, just once we have a bit more variety in terms of product offering available. What's
your 5-year plan for the company?
So we would really want to be the go-to name and the go-to brand for urban farming, urban agriculture. We have very deliberately started at an accessible price point for consumers so that we can build a sort of customer acquisition funnel which is wider and frankly much more economically efficient than anyone else in the space. But eventually there are additional products to come, and ultimately the 5-ish year plan, or hopefully even a little sooner, would be to evolve this business more into a marketplace type offering. So, we have a hardware product which can introduce people to the brand, introduce people to the idea of urban farming and urban gardening. But, we're certainly not the only people out there producing hardware to do this sort of stuff. Right now there's, as you would know, there's a ton of people selling different versions of kits like this on Amazon, but there isn't really a platform out there that gives people, the side-by-side comparison. It really gives them all they need to know. It educates them, informs them, gives them all the, blogs and information, and helps them find the right solution for their situation, their living environment, their, desires and what they want to eat. Like everyone's going to have a different optimal hardware solution depending on their scenario. So I think we're not there today because this sort of space isn't big enough right now. But urban vertical farming is growing at like 30% per year at the moment. Organic as a category is growing at 4 or 5 times the rate of the food industry more broadly right now. So like this space is hot, and I think in 5-ish years' time, I think there could be enough there that it makes sense for there to exist a marketplace for urban farming and urban gardening.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that about the marketplace idea? I'm not quite following what like the supply side of the market would be.
Sure. So the supply side of the market would be other manufacturers of kits. So most marketplaces start out with a fairly generic sort of platform, like a Craigslist, for example. And you'd have everything on Craigslist, from jobs to apartments to cars to an old pair of shoes. But as the needs of the market evolve, then custom marketplaces start to emerge. So, the real estate marketplaces are a great example. Like Craigslist doesn't give you everything you want in order to buy a house. Like you can't find all the square footage information, the bathroom information, all the photos you need. Like it's not optimized for selling that sort of product. So as like industries and, product offerings become, they evolve and the consumers become more sophisticated, like eventually those products migrate onto specialized marketplaces. And you see that happen in a big way with real estate, you see it happen with cars, and I think eventually it could happen for us, products like this as well.
So customers today, they're trying to think like, okay, what product is this replacing, or just like adding something to their life? So it's like kind of targeting this urban millennial customer who, has heard about the benefits of growing their own food, but doesn't really have the space to start a garden because they live in an apartment or whatever. It's like, okay, well, you can put these bottles on your windowsill and then you can feel all the benefits of getting closer to food and living with plants and that sort of thing. It's like, is that something that people are actively seeking out, or is it like, yeah, you kind of have to go down this gift route to spread the word about it? Like, I don't know if it solves like a pain point, right? It's more of a vitamin versus an aspirin, if that makes sense.
I would totally agree. People, don't really jump out of bed in the morning and go, oh my God, I need to buy a kit to grow basil on my windowsill today. Like it doesn't happen. So that means that, we have to go and find the customers and convince them that this is a product that they need. Because they're not necessarily jumping on Google and looking for these things themselves. So yeah, like customer acquisition and figuring that out and doing that economically is a very important part of our business. I mentioned to you the sort of $5 in, $15 out equation that we've already established on Amazon. So like, even out of the gates, we're kind of doing that economically. We were doing Facebook ads in December, acquiring customers there on like a $25, $30 basket for about $3.30. So that's like 10-15% customer acquisition cost. There's a ton of other things that we're experimenting with, have experimented with already. They don't all work, but fortunately, we are at a price point where, it's kind of an impulse buy. Like people buy this initially at 20-something bucks because you don't really have to think a lot about it at that price range. And that is really what sets us apart from the competition, who generally have product offerings that are in like the, $100, some even in the $1,000 type range. That is a much harder sell because those products solve problems that consumers do not realize they have. Like consumers, unless you're very well educated, don't realize why they need all these lights and pumps and automation on their grow kit. Fortunately, anyone who has tried to grow a plant before is aware of the watering problem. They've either underwatered or overwatered their plant, and chances are that's why they've killed it. So I don't have to educate people that they have a problem when it comes to watering a plant. And you know what? That's the only problem this product solves right now. So fortunately, we've got a pretty good fit there between, you know, pretty good product market fit there, and it doesn't take a huge amount to convince someone that this is going to solve their problem. So, you know, the customer acquisition thing is very doable, I think.
Hey, Nate, what's your current experience with driving traffic to websites or acquiring customers or paid ads or any of the other like digital marketing channels?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of experiments. We've actually started logging them all in a spreadsheet and calculating the return on investment for all of the different sort of paid promotion, marketing, and PR stuff we've done. Basically, the conclusion is that, you know, some things like Facebook advertising have worked pretty well for us. The problem is it can be quite seasonal. But by far the area where we've had the most bang for our buck so far has been PR. We got a feature last year on the New York One morning news show, which was amazing. We got some really good press and publicity last year. And it's been that sort of, yeah, like influencer, blogger, press, publicity stuff that has moved the needle the most for us. In terms of like paid advertising, it's really only Facebook ads that we've done. I mentioned the numbers on that earlier. We're getting going with the Amazon stuff, but like I said, we're still very, very new on that and have a lot to learn. Some of the stuff I'd like to do in the future will be like SEO, SEM. There's some of the other social platforms that we need to do a bit more work on in terms of paid promotion and figuring out how that works. But yeah, you know, we're trying new stuff every week and being very diligent about, you know, recording data and figuring out what does and doesn't work.
What do you think it would take to scale up just like the PR channel? Do you think that's an infinitely scalable product for your or channel for your particular product? Let me know your thoughts.
It's certainly not infinite. I mean, eventually we will reach a saturation point as kind of any product would, but do I think there's plenty of runway there relative to where we're at right now with, you know, sub 100K revenue? Absolutely. You know, like I said, one of the reasons for introducing these new products that we're working on is to help us open up a few more channels and like different types of demographics that we can go after. So I mentioned the edible flowers. So maybe there's like a housekeeper, a Pinterest type market there. I mentioned the herbal tea. So maybe there's a health, wellness, yoga type crowd there who hang out and, you know, they're into the smoothies and doing Pilates on the weekend. I mentioned the cooking kit. So there's the amateur chef. They're people who might be doing the Blue Apron, the Hello Fresh. They're like curious about cooking and they want to kind of take their cooking to the next level. And then there's the cocktail kit as well. And so you've got the whole like, you know, gourmet beverages, cocktails, mixers, like nice garnishes for your drinks. And that means that we've got, you know, different sort of influencer groups, different bloggers, different customers. I mean, the core theme, like our ideal customer, I think is going to remain 25 to 35-year-old female, urban, millennial, health environmentally conscious, likes to feel good that they're doing something and buying products with a story behind them and that have, you know, a good corporate mission. Like that's where we resonate the most. But, you know, around that, with some of these new products, there are like a few different kind of avenues that we can go down. And I'm, yeah, really looking forward to seeing what we can do with some of these new kits.
What do you think the biggest hurdles are for you guys moving forward?
So we are fully bootstrapped right now. Aside from the founder equity that we've put in, we haven't taken any other capital. So the biggest hurdle is just, you know, finding the cash to grow and like run these experiments and be able to reinvest in the business. I mean, we're just living, you know, or barely living off the kind of revenue that we're generating here. Getting close to that break-even point, as I mentioned, and obviously once we get past that, hopefully we'll have a little bit more flexibility. But the biggest challenge is just having to be incredibly frugal and being very, very disciplined about how you think about spending money and your time, what you spend them on, like, is it going to generate a return? Like, what sort of time frame is that expenditure going to generate a return? And does that make sense given the very tight ship that we need to manage from like a cash flow perspective?
Are you interested in raising outside capital or institutional money for this business?
If you rephrased the question a little bit and said, am I interested in getting some people involved who have experience with CPG, retail, branding, marketing, then I'd say, yeah, sure. And I will sort out whatever deals or metrics we need to in order to get someone like that interested and engaged. I don't want to take, dumb money. I don't want to take money from people who are going to do no more than pay to keep the lights on for 2 or 3 months, but not provide sort of long-term value. But for the right person who's strategic and makes sense and can actually help us grow this business more efficiently and more intelligently, would I like to partner with them? Yeah, sure. Definitely open to that sort of conversation.
Nate, I've really enjoyed this pitch. I think you have a super cool business idea. I love the unit economics on your particular business, or on this particular product. So nice job with that. I really appreciate you coming on the show. If some of the listeners are interested in purchasing your Urban Leaf product, where's the best place for them to find it?
Jump on Amazon. Just do a search for Urban Leaf. We will be Amazon's #1 choice for that. So you will be able to find us there.
Excellent. And do you have any parting words you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, listen, it's been great talking to you guys. Really appreciate the opportunity. Love the work that you're all doing. And thanks again. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Nate, thank you very much for coming on. Nick, I appreciate you joining me for the guest judge. And I will talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to the Go Pitch Win podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear the next great business idea, then make sure to subscribe and join us in the next episode.